Hi, I'm Jeremy with Rockland Wheels, here today with the King of Kings, the Honda Goldwing. This is a bike that traces lineage all the way back to 1975, has been through quite a bit of transformations, but is synonymous with the ultimate touring bike. And that's not something that they've carved out in just a few years. There's 40 years of engineering and everything that's gone into this motorcycle to produce what it is today. This is a flat 6-cylinder motorcycle, 1800 cc's. It's a big touring bike, comfortable for 2 people, tons of cargo space and everything, yet you could carve corners with it. What they've done with this new bike is they've lightened it up, 85 pounds. 85 pounds, you gotta think about that. That's taking 10% of the weight off a motorcycle. What they were trying to achieve is they were rejuvenating this bike. They were putting back some sportiness, putting back some handling, giving the driver more of a sense of driving that motorcycle. And they really accomplished it. I've driven the bike quite a bit, and it's pretty fantastic to see. Even the heaviest iteration of this bike now, which would be the airbag model, is still 844 pounds. That is substantially light for how much package they pack into this motorcycle. But they've lightened it up, but they didn't sacrifice on anything, and I'll walk you through it. You do have 2 options with the Goldwing. You could have the straight Goldwing or the Goldwing Tour. Tour will have the Tour pack. What's different with now on the Goldwing is you can actually buy all the options to take this Tour pack off. So you have the option of putting it on or off. That's not cheap, but you can do it. And we have all the electronic space in there on both sides and on the top. So we still have quite a bit of touring space. Everything will lock up with the fob, making it easy to use. So transmission options are pretty cool on this bike. So on the standard Goldwing and on the Goldwing Tour, you have the option of the 6-speed traditional transmission, or you have the option on the Tour of the DCT. DCT stands for dual clutch transmission. This is a technology that was developed at the racetrack. And essentially a traditional automatic transmission will go from gear to gear. So you feel that, and then it pulls back and goes into the next gear. A DCT, so the dual clutch system, each clutch is already ready in the next gear. So if my first clutch is in first gear, the second clutch is already engaged in second. So all it needs to do is switch clutches and not gear. So what that translates to is seamless shifts. It is the fastest way to shift any car on the market, and Honda has put it into this motorcycle. That's definitely speaking to their racing heritage and to their automotive roots. If you go to any exotic car or hypercar in the market right now, it's a DCT transmission. Not to be mistaken with an automatic transmission. Yes, it's automatic, but this has quite a few more tricks up its sleeve. So when you sit on this bike, the DCT version, the first thing you're gonna do is grab for that clutch that isn't there, or grab for the shifter that isn't there. This thing is quite a bit more stripped down. So we have a drive, neutral, automatic or manual, and then we could shift up or down on the other side. Having driven the bike myself, I find that the bike tends to find itself in the right gear all the time. And then there's different modes. We can put it in eco mode, in tour mode, in rain, or in sport, all affecting how long it's gonna hold that gear, how quick it's gonna downshift, and do everything it's gotta do. You would think that this transmission takes some of the fun out of the bike, but you'd definitely be wrong. This is definitely the way of the future. On the automotive side, it's already there. It's already big. Honda, having those automotive roots, are bringing that to motorcycle. And make no mistake about it, the DCT takes nothing away from the motorcycle. If anything, it adds to the experience. One of the things that Honda opted to do on this motorcycle, obviously equipped with traction control, obviously equipped with ABS, that's almost rudimentary to this bike, is the front suspension. If you notice, this doesn't have a traditional fork. This is a swing arm style suspension, keeping the movement of that wheel straight up and down and not diving back and forth, giving even more comfort, even a nicer ride on a choppy road without sacrificing anything. And to top out the front here, we also have the fantastic LED lights now. So the big thing with Honda and with the Goldwing, it's always been synonymous with technology, and this bike is no exception. When we fire this guy up, so we get a nice screen, a 7-inch screen, which for a motorcycle is huge. Nice display where we can see everything we need to see, have access to everything without anything being in our way. Our toggle switch on the side here will control. All the bikes have standard navigation system. They have standard Bluetooth connectivity and even Apple CarPlay. So this bike is really taking that technology that we see in the cars that we love and putting it in here. Something that only a manufacturer like Honda, which produces cars as well, can integrate. And playing around with this screen is super easy. It's very, very intuitive. I got on this bike, I didn't even read any manual or anything, and I was able to play around with it. Just going to the GPS system, and if you want to play with any of the settings, if you want to play with the suspension preload, these bikes are equipped with electronic suspension. So we can adjust for if we're a rider with gear, 2 riders, or 2 riders with gear. Again, letting the bike adapt to you and not you adapt to the motorcycle. That's the whole ideology behind the bike, is just making it completely user-friendly. Another feature which wasn't on the previous Goldwing that I absolutely love, it takes a book out of maybe the R1200s or the K1600s, is this electric windshield. So you can play around with it and you could get that buffeting zone almost perfect. So you could see over the windshield at all times. You could really tune how that's going to be. And our display in here is nice. We got our RPM gauge or speed. We can see our trip computer or fuel gauge. If there's anything that's open, a saddlebag or anything like that, it's going to let us know. It's going to let us know what mode we're in. And the buttons are condensed. It's not the huge button area that we used to have. And the hand controls are intimidating at first. They're surprisingly simple. There's nothing complicated on this bike, nothing hard to use. Your heads-up display is nice and high and prominent. The radio is fantastic. You can blare the music. And in true Honda fashion, you're going to be able to accessorize this bike. You're going to be able to put a whole bunch more things. But this bike, they've rejuvenated. They want the younger riders. They want the guys who still want to drop that gear, carve that corner to jump on this bike. And you're really rewarded when you do it. The best way I was able to explain it, having driven an R1200 RT for a little while and having driven the traditional Goldwing, I feel like this one has taken the best out of both of those bikes and mastered it. It really puts that sport back in the sport touring without sacrificing any of the technologies or anything that we'd expect of a Goldwing.
So right away we could feel on this Goldwing DCT, just a comfortable bike. It's doing the shifting for us. Nothing to worry about, but it doesn't take anything away from the drive, honestly. If anything, it enhances it. All the best cars out there are DCT, so we just gotta embrace it on motorcycles too. And the first thing you notice with this new Goldwing, it's a little bit less of a car cockpit and quite a bit more of a motorcycle cockpit. I feel more like I'm part of the elements. All the buttons are nice and easy, our high beam. I can bring that windshield up and down. Even changing modes is pretty easy, and if I want to change it manual, even if you want to go and see the navigation here, everything is really just easy and very intuitive. I can't tell you I've played with all the buttons on this for a ton of hours. It wouldn't be true. I've driven the bike a few times, but never did I really need to look at an owner's manual or anything to know what it's doing. Here we go. Let's go see what this wing is made of. So I can tell you in a parking right away that this thing doesn't feel heavy. Let's see how it does in the corners. So right away, you get a sport bike feeling out of this. And we can push it nice and easy. But it's funny because even pushing a little bit in corners, it feels comfortable. Like it's always about maintaining comfort. but they definitely, you don't feel the bulk that it used to have. This reminds me, I used to have an R1200, and sportiness wise, it's a lot closer to the BMW than to the previous generation Goldwing, which is a nice addition to the new Goldwing.
So keep in mind, this is a 6-cylinder 1800cc engine, bigger than most of the engines Honda puts in their cars. And it is tuned to perfection. It is smooth, 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 smooth. And it's quiet when it idles, but it really revs up nice too.